What's everybody? Excuse me. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bonanza show, taking place, taking the place of the Over Sharon show today, because unfortunately, Sharon's elderly mother was the victim of an assault yesterday, purse snatcher, and she's in the hospital now. So our thoughts, prayers, and intentions and everything go out to Sharon today. It's always crazy when something like this happens. But we know it's always a good time to kind of, instead of asking why things like this happen, maybe what can come from this. So our thoughts are with Sharon today. Shout out to Sharon and her mother and her whole family, and Cody and everybody in Arizona. So, what's going on, everybody? Just gonna pop this chat out. Hey, Sharon. Hey, Joe. All right, so Sharon's hanging out and she's listening. And I just ran out, had to do some shopping. And so I had a quote, but then I didn't set it up right, so I will read it. It's a very simple quote. Just bear with me. Uh guess I can't find it. I mean, there's so many good quotes that we can use, right? My love, Brandon Bonanza. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with the Over Sharon show, but we have started a episode on the Law of One, and we plan on doing other episodes on him. So check that out. It's really cool. I love the Law of One. Not that I follow it strictly 100% all the way. Hey, what's up, Tony? But I really like the it helps to add to the worldview. It really helps when you're trying to figure out where we might be or what the purpose of this life might be. And it does fall in with other, I don't know what happened to this. It falls in really well with other ways of thinking and stuff. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to look through some of these quotes and we will just recycle a quote that I like. How about that, everybody? It's probably going to be a Dune quote, spoiler alert. But you know, doesn't have to be. Oh, there's music in here too. Okay. All righty, we're past the music. Just searching through here. I don't have my quotes. This is crazy. Where did they go? I download so much, it's nuts. Boom, boom, boom. Just kind of wait for people to get in here anyway. So just messing around, messing around. All right. We could even talk about some of these quotes. Why not, right? Let's see what else I got. What's this one? Ooh. All right. So here we go. Ooh. Today's quote. Here we go. Today's quote is, of course, from Dune. Um, Confine yourself to observing, and you always miss the point of life. The object can be stated this way: live the best life you can. Life is a game whose rules you learn if you leap into it and play it to the hilt. Otherwise, you are caught off balance, continually surprised by shifting play. Non-players often whine and complain that luck always passes them by. They refuse to see that they can create some of their own luck, and that is by Darwi O'Drade from Chapter House Dune. She is a Bene Gesserit witch which I love. Amazing character. Definitely check out those books. All the Frank Herbert Dune books are amazing. Amazing. So I like the quote because they talk about luck, and this is something I was talking about yesterday with my, excuse me, my lovely fiance Elizabeth. I was talking about not taking things personally, and there's a couple levels really to not taking things personally that I found in my own life, which is that I started off by not taking things that people would say and do to me personally. And that's a huge, if you could start to do that, that's really huge. It helps so much with the victim narrative and everything. But I found that there's another way that you cannot take things personally. It's just when things happen, if it's a function of realm, it's a function of the realm, or if it's God or the All or Allah or Buddha or Zoroaster or whoever you pray to, Odin, or whoever you believe is the creator of this realm. Maybe something that happened is their will. So it's not your will, but it's their will. So this is something that had to happen. And it could be based on simply cause and effect. Everything that's happened before it led up to the exact instant to what happened. Could be a tragedy, could be just you're having a bad day. And the secret of not taking it personally that I've found in my life is to not worry about that stuff. And you don't, when things happen, you're like, oh, why did this happen to me and to us? You start to shift away from that point of view and you shift to a point of view like, all right, so this is what happened. It sucks that this happened, but what are the next steps? What can we learn from this? Where are we moving on? How can we make this situation better, or how could we fix it if there's anything to be fixed or done? It's about that kind of stuff. And then also there's an element of, I think this is where, like, when Jesus was talking about, you have heard me, you have heard it written, an eye for an eye, but now it's more like, let God take care of it, right? Sooner or later, God will run you down. And I think that could be one of the hardest concepts to wrap your brain around, especially if you're a victim of something that might have happened to you. Right. And so that's the kind of work. That's the kind of work that I like to do and work on, because that's the kind of work that actually makes the world better. It makes my world better. And if my world's better, then other people around me, their world is going to be a little bit better too. And that's what I have found is really the only thing that you can do. Even if you come up with the best idea ever to help people, to heal people, to fix people, other people out there are always going to have their own point of view. Yeah, Sharon says she definitely has to think about silver linings. Yeah, 100%. It's all the silver lining here. That's what Joe says. Exactly. Frank Herbert never disappoints. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it really is. It's about being, that's another thing I was saying to Elizabeth when we were talking about not taking things personally, saying it's about focusing on the gratitude. So something can happen, an event happens in the world, and this guy, my neighbor, he's like two down, and I could see him because I'm really high up. He always has the coolest toys out there. His kids are always like driving around. Must be nice. So when something happens, there's an occurrence that happens in this realm, and it's really up to you individually to decide how you're going to feel about it. And however you feel about it is fine, because that's where you're at right now. But if you don't like the way you feel and you want to change it, this is what we're talking about. That's that calling that you get, right? You're not doing it because it's the cool thing to do, or everyone's doing it, or I gotta meditate. And I got to be cool because that's what all my friends or that's what all the cool people do, and I want people to like me. I mean, if it starts you to if it gets you to start meditating, go ahead and do it. But what I'm saying is, everyone has their own point of view. So when something happens in the world or to you, does it really happen to you, or does it happen for you, or is it just happening and you're there? And that's what it is. It's like how are you referring to whatever happened in your own mind, right? Are you saying this is what happened to me or to us, or this is what happened and now this is what we're going to do? We're going to be great. We're going to move forward. And for whatever reason, this is what was meant to be. It's going to read from the chat a little bit. Joe, yep, it's funny how tragedy always brings people together. The last time my whole family was in the same room being civil to one another was when someone died. Yeah, that's where I should go because Sharon said these kinds of things bring families together. Yeah, it is. It's always the joyous, it's the really polarizing events, right? That bring people together, like the joyous events like weddings and births, or an illness or a death, right? I'm sure there's something we can learn from that as well. The polar nature of this realm. I think when people have something happen that polarizes, either they feel great or immense joy or great or immense sorrow or suffering. It definitely, hey, what's up, Blue? It definitely works on people in that way. Um, but just for an update for everybody, Sharon's mother is in the hospital, and she's just basically looking to heal and to get better. So I'm sure we'll be talking about it. Sharon told me that I could share whatever details that we had. So if anyone, has any questions, but I'm sure when Sharon comes back and is broadcasting with me, we will address this crazy situation. Um, and that's really, this all plays into the splitting of the realm because people are just super affected. So this person, whoever attacked Sharon's mom, this, criminal, for whatever reason, everything in his life, I'm sure, was getting accelerated, and he's feeling the energy in the way that he feels it, and it leads him to go out and commit these crimes. Maybe he's a drug addict or whatever, and it's just like extra crazy right now. It's all about the polarization, B, the mechanics of consciousness. Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I'm sure it's hard to have compassion for this retard, but I'm sure he's a complete piece of garbage that hates himself. And engaging in behaviors like this, I mean, are only going to get you, because that's the thing. You could try to attack weak people and, physically attack them and take advantage and rob them and steal them, but eventually something's going to happen. Someone's going to be there. What if somebody was in the parking lot whose mother had been attacked, or whose mother had just recently passed away, or something with her grandparent, or for some reason Sharon's mom reminded them of someone they knew and they were a gun owner, like, so, and especially in Arizona, I mean, it's crazy that people would be taking chances like this. So there must be something that's really, this guy must be in like super, super bad situation, super suffering because of this. And, I had a friend who was a heroin addict, and I mean, the video's still up. I should probably try to find a link to it. I don't know if it's how watchable it is now, but back in like 2014, when I started doing all this, 2015, I had a friend on who was a comedian who was a heroin addict, and we talked all about it. And he told me that he's like fully conscious of everything he did. Like, he remembers all the shitty stuff that he did, all the bullshit. He's like, the whole time I was doing it, I was hating myself for doing it. Now, this is him, he's a nice guy, so maybe it's different. He's talking about like he stole from his family and things like that. So, there's some misconceptions out there. People think when someone's on drugs, they're just like totally lost and out of their mind. I still think they are there, even if they're taking like a back seat and there might be maybe some kind of other consciousness operating their physical shell, and they're just like taking a backseat. I don't know if you've ever experienced something like that. Anyone? Like sometimes you find yourself in front of the refrigerator, or like, how did that happen? And I think it's one of those situations, but to the extreme. And this goes back into the law of one and what Sharon and I were saying and what we always talk about, which is like, if you're going to be, if you want to polarize negatively and be an evil or negative person, you have to do it all the way. But if you want to be a good person and polarize to the good, you don't have to go as far. Just 50% polarization, service to others. And as I was talking about yesterday, my amazing drive live stream that I do, where I set up this whole thing and it makes it look like I'm driving and there's a green screen in the background. Because, but anyway, I was talking about that, all that stuff with polarization and how these sorry, everybody might not be able to hear me. I'm just plugging it. You know how I am. All right. So with this polarization and the negative and the positive, now I'm just talking. All right, it's just a weird angle of talking. I think it's plugged in. We'll know in a minute. This computer makes a noise. So I was talking about it yesterday with this split that's going on. It's reality split. And I feel like we're going to see things like this happen because there's so much energy going around right now. I feel like it's really leading to a lot of anxiety, into sickness, into some kind of like pain and stuff. And this isn't like a fear mongering thing. I'm fine. Other people I know are fine, but I have witnessed some like erratic behavior with people. And no, I'm not going to upgrade Mac. Thank you very much, Apple. So I feel like, I've also seen a lot of polarizing behavior in people, like going like kind of like bipolar, right? Like, so going from okay to like not okay to kind of. And I think, could it be that all this has to do with it? And what I was saying yesterday in my live stream was like, there's warnings and there's signs in the sky. Literally, we're getting them telling us, not telling us though, right? People that watch this show, and this isn't like an egotistical thing. I don't think we're better than anybody, but I think a lot of us that watch this show, or a lot of you guys, thank you so much for watching and hanging out with us. But I feel like you kind of already get it. And if you don't have fear for these resets or whatever is going to happen, if you know that everything's going to be fine because, um, you know, everything that's meant to happen will happen. So I feel like, sorry, I'm just trying to, and now, because I was looking at something, I saw my hair. Haha, my lovely hair. So these things are happening. These signs are not for us. They're for people to kind of, I feel like it's like, hey, look, this reality isn't so real as you think. Look at the lights in the sky. Look, we're going to make the sun disappear. Like, you better watch your behavior. Think of how ancients used to view eclipses and things that would happen. They would take them as signs from the sky. And speaking of signs from the sky, I just realized, so from my lovely vantage, I could see, like I was saying, the neighbor two over, but the neighbor right here, the one next to me, I just saw him walk out to his car in his backyard. I just saw his wife when I went to the grocery store. They're Ukrainian. I said hi to her. They don't really speak a lot of English. So I was just like, hey, how's it going? But yeah, just these synchronicities. So these lights in the sky, these things that are happening, earthquakes, whatever, strange weather. It's to tell people that, hey, everything that you've been doing, everything that's going, it's going to change. Like, changes are coming. This realm is made to change. Change is the only constant. It's going to change. So if you want to work on your shit and not be affected by all this change and go on to something with a higher consciousness, then you better do it. But if not, that's okay too, because guess what? You could just die, allegedly, right, in one of these resets, and you'll come back. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I mean, this realm is beautiful. Maybe they'll come back with a better appreciation of this realm. Maybe they'll be born into a house that meditates, which they say in the Bhagavad Gita is like the best thing to ever, is to be born in a house that practices meditation. So maybe that'll happen. Maybe they'll go from being a fucking dirtbag piece of shit purse snatcher to, you know, to somebody who's born in a house with meditation and understanding. So, I mean, likely the guy was probably the product of a really bad upbringing. We'll just say that. And I've seen it, I've seen it in my life. It's not like it's a racial thing, although for some reason you guys get it, but there's plenty of white trash douchebags out there too. Trust me when I tell you. So these signs, these things that are going on, people displaying erratic behavior, this could lead people into fear. And this is really where it gets important and you have to pay attention. So if you weren't paying attention to anything else I said, just remember to not act out of fear. Act despite your fear. Act out of love. Act out of excitement. Act out of what works for you. But don't act out of fear. Elizabeth actually had a thing today for work where they watched a TED talk, and once in a while they do these like meetings, and it was Noah Trevor. I didn't hear or whatever, but I guess they had a questionnaire or something that they were going to ask before the meeting, and one of them was, what do you think holds people back from doing what they want to do in life? And because Elizabeth's been hanging out with me so much, she said fear. I guess a lot of people said fear. So I told her, I'm like, why don't you just read the litany of fear? She's a little shy though, so she's going to send it to the lady. So I told her that before the meeting, and after the meeting, she's like, oh, I should send her the litany of fear. I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. I'm like, why don't you let me give a TED talk? I'm definitely qualified to give a TED talk to your fellow employees about these kind of topics. But yeah, so really all I see on the horizon are good things. And oh, hey, what's up, Michael? Hey, Sharon, hope everything is okay with you and your mom. Sending my love. Awesome. Much love, Michael. We have some great slaves. I mean, Over Sharon fans, watchers of our content consumers. We have some amazing content consumers here on the Brandon Bonanza channel, the Over Sharon Show. So cool. So and I feel like this is what we talk about all the time, but this really, what else are you gonna worry about? What are you worried about? Just get fake doors. That's what I say. So as we move in, I think things might even look crazier. Crazy things might start to happen out in our purview. I mean, I told some stories about when I was in the Marines yesterday. So go check out that live show. It's the Solo Brando Riding Dirty. Because my car, I forgot to say that in the show. The reason why I titled it Riding Dirty, because my car was like caked with pollen. I took a picture a little bit, but I should have took a better picture. It was funny. My car almost looked green because of the pollen, or yellow. I don't know what happened. So yeah, that's what I was talking about when I probably lost my train of thought, but it's all right. We lose our train of thought here on the Brandon Bonanza Show, and we just keep moving. We don't need trains. We don't need trains. We got airships. We got airships of thought. And they're harder to lose because they're in the sky. You just look up and you see them. So this whole not taking things personally really is something that I want to focus on today, because it goes so much deeper than like I said, than just when someone does something to you or says something, and then you just go into the exercise of realizing that they don't know the real you, right? They don't really know you. To them, you're just a character in their movie that's playing in their head, no matter how much they love you and stuff. And this goes for everybody, because they can never know the real you. They can never get your point of view from inside the view you get from your consciousness. They only have their own. And I remember one time when I was getting into this stuff, right near the beginning, when I was getting into comedy too, and I was getting into the devil's lettuce again because I had quit before I joined the Marines when I was 18, and I started doing comedy again when I was like 34 or 30, 35, something like that, 36. I don't even know, but I started to partake in the devil's lettuce again, and had some really intense episodes of thought. And one of them was, what if everybody starts with the same baseline consciousness when they're born? We all start the same way, and then everything that we go through shapes us. And so that thought just kind of helped me have compassion for people and to see people in a whole different light. Now, that might not be true, especially if you take into consideration the 16 personality types. So maybe there are 16 different starting points, and that's where people, that's how their worldview works from their Myers-Briggs indication or whatever. So that's something like that's their operating system. That's how they see the world. But they have the same, everybody has a lot of the same basic wants and needs as far as they want to be happy, they want their basic needs fulfilled. They want to have love in their life, stuff like that. But then everything that happens to them throughout their life changes their behavior. Like, I know somebody who doesn't like cats that much. Not that they don't like cats. It's somebody Elizabeth knows, really. So Snow and I, nobody you guys know, but and then she told me that what happened was that as a child, this person had a cat and their dad took it away from them. So I was like, well, they probably don't want to be hurt again. So it's a defense mechanism. It's probably unconscious. They don't even realize it. So that's really what makes up ego and personality. Things that we would call personality or somebody's ego, their sun sign, how they show themselves to the world. They might have this baseline operating system. You can look at it through astrology or Myers-Briggs or however you want to look at it. But based on what happens to them, it forms a personality. And that's really what you're dealing with when you're dealing with a person and their behavior, especially if it's somebody that you don't know so well. So if you're like in a situation where somebody pisses you off or whatever. So if you have that as your baseline thinking, that goes back to not taking things personally. So normal baseline thinking, somebody like a normie or whatever, the way I started off was, oh shit, how is everything affecting me? I want to do this. I want to go eat that. I want to go do that. I want to buy that. Something happens. I'm like, oh shit, why did this happen to me? Oh man, what am I going to do? I got to do this. I got to fix it. It's got to be better for me. I have to feel better. I want happiness. So that's the baseline original one. But then if you start to work on yourself and you get familiar with these concepts about not taking things personally when things happen, it's a totally different experience. You look at the other person, you're like, oh, I wonder what led them to perform this behavior. What would lead somebody to do X behavior, whatever it is. And then you start to think about that stuff. Now, we talk about this all the time on the show too. This doesn't mean you can't defend yourself in the physical realm. I mean, I feel like your physical body is your own and you do have the right to defend it or your property. But when you're defending it, you're not saying, look, fuck this douchebag, and you're like stomping his head. And listen, guys, I'm just thinking from my personal experience. You got to remember, I grew up, uh, you know, with really young parents. It was a crazy situation. I also joined the Marines. So sometimes I could be a bit of a savage. I've worked on it a bunch, but some of these thoughts you have, I mean, think about if someone's going to try to hurt you or a loved one, you're going to get thoughts of rage. You're going to want to stomp, you want to curb stomp them. We were talking about curb stomping yesterday. You're going to want to cause the ultimate amount of pain to them, to people they love, to all this stuff. You want to get even, you want revenge. And that really just comes from a sense of justice. And I know because I have a Libra rising and I always wanted things to be fair, fair. My rising sign is Libra. So it affects me in a certain way where I want the scales to always be balanced. That's the way that I see things. So I always remember saying, that's not fair. And because I'm an INTP and, you know, I have this crazy intellect at my disposal, I would, even as a kid, I would figure out situations and point out, and I always had questions for people. And I'm like, this isn't fair. And what would I always hear? What's the answer that the adults would always give you when you tell them it's not fair? Life's not fair. That's what they would say. Life's not fair. That's not fair. Well, guess what, Brandon? Little Brandon, life's not fair. So there's a lot of wisdom when people will say that to you, life's not fair. And it is true because you're really only speaking from your sense of how the world's affecting you and how you feel when you say something's not fair. So even if something's going on, like say whatever's going on, you know, that country that's at the end of the Mediterranean over near Egypt. I heard that you could get a really good deal on gold there. Or no, diamonds. Diamonds are really cheap there, and gold is really cheap in Turkey. But there's this country, I think it starts with an I. It's not Iraq or Iran or any of those. But anyway, you could look over what's going on in that country and you could be like, that's not fair, right? Those people, those poor fucking people are getting fucked over. That is not fair. Well, you're right in the physical sense, it's not fair. But just because it makes you feel sad and you don't think it's right doesn't mean that that is what is supposed to happen according to the plan of the universe. And what you can do is you could say, you know, I don't agree with what's going on over there. I don't think it's right, but I'm not going to feel like a victim because of it. I'm going to tell people, you know, tell people if you want to do it, or, you know, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Just internally in the spiritual, inside. This is what I'm talking about. So when things happen, it's not fair in the physical. It totally isn't. But especially when you have a short view of what's going on within a window, like of a day or a week or whatever. But when you stretch it out and you look at all the situations, you could see that there is this karmic dance going on. This, like, yeah, Mike, oh my God, I hated that answer. Life's not fair. Yeah. So make it fair, parents. Try to teach and learn how to accept it. Yeah, right. Well, they were never taught how to accept it either. That's, but I know you get that. But that's really, I think, what we're dealing with. We're dealing with children raising children, raising children. And the real parent is the propaganda. Right now, the real parent is the television or the internet or the phone that's in people's hands or the screen. So it really is up to us to work on ourselves to heal our part of the realm. Like the net of Indra, we turn our light on, and then the lights around us can turn on because they see us turn on our lights. And shit's gonna happen, man. Shit happens. Like Forrest Gump said, shit happens. And really what that means is, the way I interpret it is, things are gonna happen and there's nothing you can do. It's funny, when I was younger, we went to Panama City Beach in Florida because we went to visit family in Alabama. I think we might have went to Disney too, but when we were in Alabama, they were in southern Alabama, so they're really close to the Florida Panhandle. So we went to Panama City, and it was like spring break or something. And I don't even remember how old I was. Maybe nine or I was either 9 or 11. I was between 9 and 11 years old. YouTube, somewhere in that range, and maybe I was even younger. And there was all these shirts because we were walking around, and there's all these shirts that said "shit happens." So I was like, I had no idea what it meant, and I couldn't ask my parents. So I just imagined like shit materializing places, like Star Trek, and they just beamed in a bunch of shit. You know, I'm like, shit just happens, man. It just fucking it appears. I was like, all right, great. Like I didn't really think that's what happened, but that's what that made me think of, that shirt. So anyway, that's a funny side story about when I was a kid. Um, but yeah, man, you know, shit's gonna happen, and I think we just, if we could just see that it's part of the plan and try not to act or react to it, try to take a space and get some mindfulness in there and think about it. And that, oh, that's what I was saying too. So the self-defense thing, if you have to take someone out, like if your neighbor just used their blower every day, and you just got to take them out now. Jokes, everybody. This is comedy. If someone's attacking you or whatever, when you retaliate, you don't have this feeling, like I said, of stomping their face into the ground and killing everybody and hurting everyone they've ever known. It's more about thinking internally, this person had a rough upbringing, rough circumstances. I'm sorry this has to happen. I hope you find peace after this, and then you just do what you have to do. It's kind of that mindset. And I feel like that is what keeps the violence, because the thing with violence, and especially for men, I don't know how it is for women, but for men, it's easy for men to get caught up in violence because of the way we're raised and the way that kids are like spanked and hit and stuff. Because, and I don't know about how to raise kids. This isn't anything about raising kids. I'll just tell you how, when I was raised and I was hit, the earliest memories I had of being like hit or spanked or whatever, I always wanted to get retribution. I always wanted to be like, you know what? I can't wait till I'm big enough and I could cause this pain. And I used to beat up, like, used to fight with my brothers, and I was the oldest. So I probably would just take it out on them. And what happens is, when you do get into a place of power, or you use some kind of violence and you feel glorified because of it, or you feel good because of it, it starts to get addicting. And I think that's what happens to people when they go to combat and stuff. Some people that aren't ready for it or whatever. I mean, how can you ever really be ready for combat? But I would say internally or spiritually not ready. And you see this in movies and stuff. Sometimes there's a serial killer, and then somebody else will kill that serial killer and they become the serial killer. That, I think that's what that whole motif is referencing. And I feel like the answer to that is the way that you perform the act of force that you're performing. Is it a violent act, or is it an act of self-defense? Is it a true act of trying to keep your physical body whole while defending yourself and not feeling like a victim while it's going on, and not rage squirting all over the place and being like, yeah, And I'm not saying it's easy. It's like in Halo, when people are chasing you around and you finally kill that guy and you just teabag him, it's the same thing. You're going to want to rage squirt and get excited, and that feeling might get addicting. So it's always whenever you're using some kind of force, whenever you're using deadly force, this is something they should teach. I remember when I was in the Marines and I went to work, I was talking yesterday about getting temporarily assigned out. They called it FAPT. I remember, forget what the words were for the acronym, but it was FAP. So they'd be like, oh, where's Smitty? Oh, he got FAP'd out to the chow hall or whatever. He got FAP'd out to PMO. So I was working with the military police after I went on a cruise. We were back for about a year. So I went to work with the military police. I volunteered. And I was supposed to, actually, it was just a job where I was driving around. It wasn't the military police originally. I was supposed to just be driving around between a couple Marine Corps bases like Jacksonville and Cherry Point, Camp Lejeune and Cherry Point. And I was supposed to, and no, I didn't drink the water at Camp Lejeune. Everyone asked me that. Like, you're in Camp Lejeune? Did you drink the water? Not in the 80s. I'm not that old, guys. I was there in the 90s. All right. So anyway, it would have been a really cushy job. So that's why they're going to give it to me. But I happened to lose my license because of one speeding ticket in North Carolina. I knew nothing about anything. I just went to court because I thought it was like Connecticut. But I ended up losing my right to drive in North Carolina. And they couldn't take my license because it was a Connecticut license. So I lost it for like 6 months or something. But they were like, well, you can't do this, but you can do guard duty. You can work on the gate. And I was like, oh, that sounds really easy. Just sitting at a gate all day. Little did I know there were 12-hour shifts standing on a gate. There was a little guardhouse, but most of the time you're in the sun, and it was the summer. So it was like 98 degrees with like 98% humidity. And used to get this, we all get these tan lines because we would wear those, they call them the piss cutter hats. They're like the ones that look like, and we would get this line because it would cover this much. And then on our hands, because we had to wear gloves, we would get a line. So I used to roll them up. It was so funny. And then like a neckline. Um, anyway, so I went to work with the MPs and they told us about deadly force. They gave me, well, I was already in the Marines, but they gave me a handgun and they taught me how to, they let me shoot a shotgun and all this stuff. But with the deadly force thing, they basically just tell you when it's authorized. Like they're like, oh yeah, deadly force is authorized in these situations, but they don't really give you like a class. Like I remember feeling, oh, this is it. Like you just handed me a gun that I could carry around on base now, and these are your guidelines. It was pretty crazy. I think a chat, I should make a TED talk for them and they could do it, and it'll be about the use of deadly force and how to use it and uh, the correct way to use it, having compassion and stuff, even in the midst of using deadly force. What's up, chat? Benjamin Balderson. Who would I know what Star Trek wrote like? Who would I know what Star Trek works like? I'm not gay. Oh, what did I must have missed something. What's up, Dissonant Jones? MS. I generally need to know why I had to do something and in a specific way because I didn't trust my parents 100% that they knew the best ways for me. Yeah, especially as foreigners in North America. Oh yeah, I could see that 100% being here because you said you were from Poland, so I could see that 100% wanting to make sure they knew what was going on because they're not even from here. I can say they mostly knew what they were doing better than most parents in America and Canada. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. You never know until you compare yourself to other parents. That's the thing. My parents always provided what they could and everything, and I never went hungry. I mean, there were some times where I wanted to eat more because I was just an animal, but we always had a roof over our head and stuff. It's just they were really adjacent to people who were partying because of their age. And my family, I had cousins that were like the same age as my dad and stuff. So, because he was from a family of 8, he was the second youngest. So there was a lot of craziness, and it was the 70s and 80s. So you guys can only imagine. Oh, just giving you shit. I get it. Yeah, shit, and that's what happens. Shit happens, and I just imagine shit coming in on the walls. I'm just like, shit happens. What do you? And they'd be like, shit happens when you party hard in Panama City. I remember seeing that everywhere. They were like on cozies for like drinks and shirts, like everything. It's hilarious. Um, but yeah, so that's really one large aspect of not taking things personally. And like I was saying, the key and the whole thing about this not taking thing personally is really when things happen to you from the realm, things that just aren't the direct result of another person exactly or your behavior. It's just something that seems to happen, like a tree falls on your house or something. Um, I mean, you could point fingers at people that are to blame and stuff, but what I'm saying is the key to really is not see yourself as a victim. People act weird. People are going to say and do things that piss you off, especially online. These online communities are notorious for it. Shit definitely happens on the farm on every surface. Yes, shit happens on the farm. There's our new shirt. Get your boots because shit happens on the farm. I mean, we see these things all the time. I mean, Ben's in here. Hey, what's up, Ben Balderson? He's no stranger to these internet beefs and things that come up. And I think a lot of them come up because people just take things way too personally and they don't act like an adult, and I don't know. I feel like I try to treat my interactions online as if the person was in front of me because I feel like there's some behaviors that people exhibit that they would never do right in front of your face. I mean, especially me, I'm not like that intimidating, but I am 6'5". I'm kind of skinny, but if you hang out with me long enough, you could see that I'm a little crazy. So people would definitely check their tongue, especially if they have to look you in the face. And even if you're not intimidating or crazy or whatever, people aren't gonna talk to you the same way. And I think we should keep that in mind and not take things personally. And it's fine. I'm not here complaining and whining and crying that it happens, but you just gotta kind of do your best. And it's not like you could just sit around to be a punching bag. So I get it when people stick up for themselves and stuff. But if someone's saying shit about you, honestly, who cares? Because they don't know you. And I feel like if people had that who cares attitude, then there would be a lot less of this internet beef. And it's so silly. It is. Yeah. So not taking things personally. There's a reason, right? If you are someone who's being attacked online and you have trolls going after you and stuff, you could just look for the silver linings in it, right? Like what's going on? What can I learn from this? I mean, things happen all the time, and I try to have that point of view. Especially at work, something will go wrong, or it's crazy. And I used to be like, oh no, why? Why did this happen to me? And then I'd be worried, and I'm like, oh no, people are going to think less of me. They're gonna, I'm gonna get a complaint or something, or something's gonna go wrong, and it's just this negative spiral. But now I'm like, I'll even say someone's name wrong, and then I'll just like on the microphone, then just correct it. I'll be like, oh, sorry, Jay. It's sorry about that, Jay, and then just say their name again, and I just roll with it and smile, and people love it. They're just like, oh yeah, this guy's fucking great. No, I get it. Everyone has their own personality. I'm not telling you to be. Listen, the world can only handle one Brandon. All right, like you could ask Elizabeth; she's downstairs. I'll go interrupt her and get her up here as a character witness. There can only be one Brandon, so I don't want you guys, to think that you have to be like me. But whatever works for you in your situation with not taking things personally. For me, it's just having a smile on my face. I was talking about this yesterday. I show up to a wedding venue and I'm just like, hey, how's it going? Whoever's in charge, a lot of times whenever I show up to a wedding venue, especially if it's one that they don't do a lot of weddings. If it's like a restaurant or something that's doing one, the person I'm working with, I could tell they're like nervous or there's like some stress going on because they're trying to make sure everything's right. And I'm just like, hey, how's it going? You know, I'm here to help you. Let's do this. We're gonna have a great time tonight. I've said that to me. Like, no matter what happens, don't worry. It's gonna be great. These people are great. Like it's gonna be fun. Everyone's here just to celebrate. So why even have stress? Um, you know. So that's how I feel. And I'm also I have a crisis going on in my life. I borrowed a hotspot from the office, an internet hotspot, because I should just start using my phone. It's probably better, but we have these little hotspot things that from Verizon, they create Wi-Fi for you wherever you are. We have them for the photo booths. Sometimes I'll take them because we have photo booths in our DJ company. So sometimes I'll take one with me so I can get music off the internet if I need it. If I'm going to a gig where there might be, a chance of I'm not going to have the music that somebody might ask for. Of course, ahead of time they tell me all their music they want and stuff, but sometimes I like to be extra prepared. So I had one with me in Saturday at a wedding, Saturday and Sunday, and Saturday I don't no idea what happened to it. The thing just disappeared somehow Saturday. So that's my crisis. I've been looking for it everywhere and calling people I work with. And they're no help, I tell you. I did call the venue. They're really nice. So maybe it'll end up at the venue because it's a giant venue. They had 3 weddings and 1 prom going on all at the same time. It's crazy. They have like different buildings and stuff. It was fun. The cops showed up. There was definitely some like I don't know who the prom was for, but it was definitely a prom that was like in an inner city or near an inner city. I'll just say that. And the cops ended up showing up later in the night. But the way that it works, all the events are really separate, so you won't see anyone unless you like go outside into the parking lot and stuff. Which I was taking a lot of parking lot walks, so I got to see all the action. It was fun, but yeah, I mean, fun times. So I mean, it's possible that it's even probable these kids were probably at the prom or even affected by all this crazy energy that's going on. I would just, I mean, it's got to be insane to be a kid right now, growing up with all this stuff that's going on. I'm sure a lot of them see through it. They have to. I mean, we had when I was in high school, they wanted to eliminate hats. Like they wanted to make it so we couldn't wear hats, and we had to walk out. It was great. And then they ended up passing the rule a couple years later. Anyway, what are you gonna do? What are you ever going to do? That's, I think, just the way this realm works. with the propaganda and the creation of it. But going back to the original theme of this episode, that was kind of unintended, but it just happened to ended up being the theme. It's just not taking things personally and just realize that, hey, these kids are going through some wild times, but this is their challenge. You know, they have a easier life, maybe physically, in the fact that there's not as much hard work. They don't have to get up in the morning and like feed animals and stuff, or they don't have to, you know, they have a cell phone and the internet, so it makes their life easier. They don't have to go to the library or whatever. I don't know, I'm trying to think of different things. But they have this other challenge, this authority challenge, because I feel like, you know, you hear the analogy of like a frog slowly boiling and it won't jump out of the pot. And that aspect is true in every part of the society. So you see this lockdown happening. I mean, lockdown's probably the wrong word, but this lessening of freedoms. But I think it really, it's funny because people say this, all these people get together in a dark room, right? This is the story, and they're all evil, mwahaha people. And they're like, all right, how can we subvert the American people, and how could we take away their power? And people think it's with all these laws and like taking stuff away, but it really is just the culture. Because if you lead the culture in that way, people will just do it automatically, and less do people want their own autonomy and their own freedom. That's what I'm really seeing. If you take an honest, objective look at what's going on, people want their freedom less and less. Like they were begging to be locked up and cover their smiling faces, and to just do interactions on Zoom. I mean, I love doing interactions on Zoom myself with a lot of these wedding meetings that I do now. Instead of driving to the office, I just do it right from the comfort of my own home. So I guess I'm guilty of it a little bit, but that's really, though, what I'm saying is it's not really the government or the Illuminati or the Jays or anybody evil doing stuff to us. It's us partaking. And I know we all know that, but it's always good to repeat it and to think about that. Because if that's the case, then all we have to do is just stop doing that evil or bad thing that we perceive, and then it doesn't affect us, you know, with self-work and stuff like that. So that's really all I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to chat about today on the Brandon Bonanza show. Guess I could do a quick commercial and let's go back to chat and just give some quick shout outs. What's up, Tony? Again, I heard if there are more laws, there are more problems. Wow, that's a fun synchronicity, huh? See, that's what I'm talking about. I wasn't even looking at the chat. It was behind. I was looking at myself. I'll text her. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm late. Where's my girl Sharon? Oh yeah. So Sharon's mother was assaulted yesterday by a purse snatcher. And I believe what happened was he just like yanked it so hard, screwed up her shoulder, and then she fell to the ground too and hit her head, I believe. So she has some injuries and they're working on it. Looks like they were going to do surgery. Now they might not do surgery. So that's always a good thing. But she'll be back on soon to talk all about it, everybody. And, you know, like I said, just keep we're going to keep our thoughts and prayers and all that. And I know it's like I've been made fun of so much, but our good intentions are going to go out toward Sharon and her family and her mom. And we're all going to know that for whatever crazy reason, all this stuff was meant to happen. And we're just going to move on from it, let it go, and focus on the healing and focus on what could be better now. How can this bring her family together? How can this bring people together? How can this maybe bring awareness to what's going on? I mean, you never know what can happen because of this. Oh, good. I just texted her in your local. Yeah, that's good. So I'm sure she might need some backup there. Her brothers and sisters have been in the hospital around the clock, making sure, because, you know, guys, we all know hospitals. We don't have to talk about it. So that's good too. It's really fortunate that her mother has that support system available to her. Not a lot of people do. So that's a good thing we can focus on, you know. And we will be back next week. Probably be doing an episode about the Dow. That's what we had for plan today. We're going to cover verses 45 and 46. Right? Yeah. And then 47 and 48. And also we're going to be doing some Law of One stuff. Sharon's going to be traveling, so we're probably going to record a couple episodes ahead of time also. So exciting things coming here on the Brandon Bonanza show. And I've been doing some live streams. I've been allegedly driving. I mean, we all know it's just a green screen. Don't get fired up, anybody. So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, because you never know when I might go live. I do a lot of driving around, and sometimes I'm just like, you know what? Bang. I want to talk about some stuff while I'm running these errands. So you never know. Morelawsmoreproblems.com is the website. You could donate there. But we always tell you the best way to support us is to subscribe, hit the bell, hit the thumbs up on this video, go around, just randomly hit thumbs up, watch as much Over Sharon as you can. Tell everybody how awesome we are. What else can you do to help support us? Come to the chat. That's right. Every Thursday when we go live or premiere our episodes for the Over Sharon Show, we hang out in the chat. Same thing for when I do the Brandon Bonanza. I'm always in the chat hanging out. So come hang out with us before we get famous, because, you know, when we're famous, we're going to have to slow down the chat, and it's going to be hard to talk to us. You know, we're going to have to sell our autographs when we're famous. Yeah, so this has been, I think I've been going for about an hour. This was a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. 6 people in there right now. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, we're right at about 56 minutes. I think this is going to be good. I was going to keep it short today since I'm by myself and I didn't have an exact topic. But all the stuff I talked about, if you're just catching us now, this is all the kind of stuff we talk about in the Over Sharon Show. So check it out and go back and watch some past episodes. If you have any guests you guys want us to talk to, let us know. Leave comments. Let us know what you think. Hey, and if you're on BitChute, let me know, because we these videos get uploaded to BitChute automatically, and it seems that we have some views going on over there. So we just want to hear from you and let us know what you think. BitChute. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button wherever you are viewing this. You could get us in podcast form for the Over Sharon Show. It's at Podbean. But if you go to morelawsmoreproblems.com, all the links are there. Just click on the Over Sharon tab for all your Over Sharon needs, and that's all you'll need. Let me just check the chat one last time. That made me laugh. Thank you. I love the hangouts with you guys. We love hanging out with you guys too. It's so awesome. We have a little really cool community here. So come here next Thursday. We can all give Sharon our love and get an update on the situation. And if you're in our Telegram group, we'll probably be updating you in there too as to what's going on. And if there's anything else, just leave a comment and we'll see you next time. And I'm going to play my amazing, this is the Brandon Bonanza song that was made by the amazing Quentin Farrell. So here you go, guys. Have a good weekend.
Bonanza, we're hanging out. It's the Brandon Bonanza show. Bonanza, we're hanging out on the Brandon Bonanza show. Hanging out on the Brandon Bonanza show. Yeah.
Yeah. See you guys soon. Take care.